Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. Now, we know this series has been crazy as far as swings in this series, double-digit leads for both respective teams. But we seen Miami come out in that game 3 and really didn't, look back to get that lead. But then we saw in game 4, Boston do the same thing to Miami. So it looks like now we're on a collision course for a potential 7-game series, with the series being tied 2-2. Starting with you, Chaz, what are your initials going back to game 3? What are your initial reactions to seeing that game and how it unfolded?
Yeah, I mean, this series has been kind of tough to.
In the game,
Are you guys getting feedback?
I think that's kind of unfolded.
Yeah, I mean, this series has been kind of tough. How's that?
I think it's better now.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was saying is, going back to game 3, it's been kind of hard to decipher this series just because of, guys have been in and out of it. On one game, Marcus Smart missed, Al Horford missed time, Robert Williams was out, as well as Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry. I mean, there's been a ton of starters in this series that haven't been playing games, that haven't been playing consistent minutes, that haven't been playing in the fourth quarter. So it's something that's been going back and forth, but it hasn't really been like a tight, game by game, where we're trying to figure out who's going to win this game. And then the next one, it's tight. Like, it's been a lot of blowouts. It's been a lot of garbage time. You say that you think it's leaning towards 7. I think you're probably right. But I feel like who can snatch game 5, they also have a really good shot to close it out in 6. Just because if you grab momentum in the series, I feel like you could turn it into 2 wins pretty easily.
Yeah, since the momentum isn't one way or the other, it seems like in this series, and it's kind of going, Boston having, even to me, even though Boston, had they won yesterday decisively, like it wasn't close. No one really played a great game on that Boston team. And looking at Miami, they missed their first 14 shots. So coming out the gate being down, I think it was 4-26. I think score was like 4-26. So being down like that early and not having any type of rhythm offensively really put them in that hole, of which I didn't think they could come back from, because they were already not hitting their shots. Tyler Hero is unavailable. Jimmy Butler is still nursing his injury, and Bam come and goes. Kyle Lowry is still dealing with the injury that he has. So it literally is whoever is whole enough and has their complete team as much as they can get it, I think, has the edge in this series. Now, Tunde, I believe you had the Celtics winning this series in 7, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So do you think the home court matters? I know you had Celtics winning, but at this point, seeing how this series has went, do you think home court really matters?
I think if you're in Boston's organization, you're telling yourself that we win game 5 and we ain't got to worry about it, right? So win game 5, and then we don't have to step foot in Miami again if we have a business in game 6. I don't know. I mean, I think home court always matters to varying degrees in the playoffs. Switching gears and focusing on the team we've got in the Western Conference, the Golden State Warriors. I believe they've won every year that they've been in the playoffs under Steve Kerr. They've won at least one road
25 game. Consecutive road games in the series.
Yeah, and like,
it's incredible.
Yeah, so like with a team like that, clearly it doesn't matter to them. I really still don't think we give enough credit to how ridiculous that is. That they've done that. But I think just generally speaking, it's like the mindset should be like, it's basketball. We know what we have to do. Especially when you're at a point in the series where it's 2-2, kind of got an idea of how you want to attack who you're playing against and what the best way is to handle business, especially with a series like this one in which Boston's won several games comfortably. You kind of know what you're doing here, and so it's just a matter of going out and doing it.
Yeah. See, I don't think any particular player in this series has played well per se. Like, I think, obviously Jayson Tatum has had his bright spots and Jimmy Butler has had his bright spots in this series. Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Bam Adebayo, they have had their bright spots in this series. But I don't think anyone has played consistently, particularly well, that they're capable of playing, on the basketball court. So to me, I think that favors Boston a little bit because I think Boston still has the personnel to be able to have a bad game and still win. I don't think Miami can no longer have a bad game and win this series. Jimmy Butler cannot be 3 for 10, and expect Miami Heat to win this series. The entire Miami Heat starting five cannot have 18 points. Like, that is egregious. Like, that is insane to me. You cannot beat even a Boston team that is not playing like we've seen Boston play since the turn of the calendar year. You still cannot beat a Boston team playing like Miami is playing. And, what's alarming to me for a person that picked Miami is that Jimmy Butler, it was all this talk, and we were talking about it. Is Jimmy Butler a superstar? What does he rank when we're talking about, top 10 players, top 15 players in the NBA right now? And he's just too inconsistent for me. He can have 41 game, he can have 22 another. He can have 31 game, he can have 12 another. I mean, it's just too inconsistent.
How much do you think is the right name right now?
I think we have an echo again, I think.
Where's that coming from? Go ahead, Danny. How worried about you are about Jimmy Butler's right knee injury right now?
See, I think we should be worried about that injury because it seems like he's going to try to play on that injury, but I think it's worse than what they're letting on. But also, I think there's internal things that's going on with that Miami Heat team. They're not particularly playing the style and the Heat basketball that we're particularly seeing them play under Eric Spoelstra. We're not seeing that flavor of basketball. So I think Jimmy Butler, he's in an ideal situation to me. I mean, Miami is the ideal team. Miami is the ideal destination for him. But I think him as your best player, and I'm going to hammer this point home, him as your best player, you can only get so far. We've seen them go to the NBA Finals. That's as far as you can go without actually winning a championship. So I believe that's their ceiling. I believe he can carry you to an NBA Finals, but he's not enough to get you over that hump.
You mean this specific team, or you think that goes for any team that Jimmy Butler's on?
I mean, are we talking about just Miami? I mean, I think it's different. You're putting him in a different situation.
No, I mean, like, just in Miami and like realistically what you could see happening over like the next couple years.
Well, how we were talking, and we were talking, and I kept on hammering the point home that there's a difference in level of superstars and stars. And I've been saying this since the beginning of this season, that there's levels of superstardom. And if we're going to categorize Jimmy Butler as a superstar, he is not that guy to be the best player on your team and win a championship. I don't believe he can be the best player on a championship level team that can win a title. And I'm not gonna beat a dead horse to say we're proving it right now, and he's proving my point right now because they've made it to a finals already. But he cannot get you over that initial hump of actually capturing a championship and being the best player on the championship team. I believe he needs to be a second or a third option, preferably a second option. He needs someone that's a little better than him.
I think he actually probably could do it. It's not this team that I don't think would be able to get it done. I think you probably need somebody to be better in that 3 and 4 spot, maybe even that 2 spot with Bam. I think this Miami team is good. But as we've talked about all season, they have a lot of flaws. So I don't think he can drag this. I don't think he's going to be able to drag this team to another finals appearance and maybe a championship. I don't, but I do think he is a player that is capable.
But isn't this Miami Heat team better than the one he dragged to the NBA Finals in the bubble?
I don't think so, right?
I would say they are
playing really high level. I think Tyler Hero was playing better in that playoff than he is now. I'm not sure about Bam. I think Bam was maybe a little bit better that season.
Obviously you can look at production and say, well, Tyler Hero averaged 21 in a regular season. Now he's down to 14. He was shooting 40+% from the three. Now he's down to 23%. So obviously that's a huge gap, but you can look at that and see, okay, he was playing way better in the regular season and in that bubble when they went to the championship than what he's playing right now. But we can't just take that away and put that in this situation and think that the outcome was going to be different.
For sure not. Do you think if Tyler Hero was playing the same way that he was playing in the regular season right now, that they would be better?
I mean, yes, but they still need Bam to be. Bam is too inconsistent. He's too inconsistent. A lot of
these players are, yeah.
Yeah, but see, that's the problem that I have is that these four teams, and we're going to be talking all Western Conference in the next hour because we have that live game coming up for you guys. But all four of these remaining teams, to me, each have a level of inconsistencies to them. So when I'm looking at all four of these teams, I'm saying which one can I count on the most to get it done, even though they're being inconsistent. And Miami will probably be second to last on that list because let's be honest, Dallas they don't have enough. And we've talked about this time and time again, even when Tunde picked, the Mavs to beat the Warriors, we were talking about he just do not have enough help. He cannot do it all on his own. And we're going to get all into that, in the next hour and the next show. But Boston could be inconsistent and win. They could beat Miami being inconsistent.
But I mean, they were extremely inconsistent. Tatum was not very good in Game 3, and they lost.
I'm saying winning. I'm saying winning this series. I believe both of these teams, the path that they're on, and the way that they're both being inconsistent, Boston still wins. I believe that. But Miami cannot be this level of inconsistency and expect to win because I don't think they have the better team. I don't think they have the better team. I thought they had the better maybe player. I thought they had the best player in the series, but obviously I'm not right about that either. That's obviously Jayson Tatum. He's not impressive either. So just looking at this matchup, it's just who do you trust the most? Like who's going to be more consistent when it comes down to it? Jaylen Brown was atrocious last night. So it's just so many inconsistent players. Like, who do Jayson Tatum got to the free throw line 18 times. Mm-hmm. So majority of his points came from the free throw line. I know he ended up with 31, but
yeah, he was 1 of 7, I think.
Yeah, but most of his points came from the free throw line. So he was being aggressive, even though his shot wasn't falling. The funny thing is, and I'm going to toss it to Tunde. The funny thing is, I heard the NBA TNT guys talking about this, the greatest show on television by far. If you guys haven't watched it, go check it out. The guys were talking about it like the Warriors probably have the two greatest shooters. Well, at least Steph Curry is the greatest shooter. Klay Thompson, the top 3 or 5.
Got it right the first time.
Yeah. So they have two of the greatest shooters in the history of the game. And they started this 3-point shooting thing. But they don't shoot it as often as other teams do. It's like when the Golden State Warriors are not hitting threes, they know how to stop the bleeding by getting twos. It's like all these other teams in the NBA playoffs right now, they're obsessed with the three, and when they're not hitting them, they continue to shoot them. It reminds me of Houston shooting, missing how many threes against Golden State? It was 30 plus.
27.
Like 20, was it like 27?
I remember.
Yeah, like 27 3, like atrocious. Like you're constantly shooting threes, and it's not happening. So Golden State, even though they started this 3-point thing, and Steph Curry became, the greatest shooter ever, he knows when it's not working. He knows when it's not falling down. I'm going to take it to the paint. We've seen Steph Curry in the paint in this series more than I ever seen Steph Curry in the paint in the last 2 years. Like, he's literally killing Dallas in the paint. So they know when their shots are not falling from three, they know, I can go in and I can beat them this way. So we're going to get all into that. But Tunde, I wanted to get your impression on game 4 and how that series how that game turned out. And what do you expect to happen in game 5? You can't predict this shit. I know. You can't.
What, the Boston Miami series?
Yeah, no, you could predict the outcome, but it's so many swings that.
I think for me, also, okay, before I get into this, I do want to say something and just about all of the stuff you just said, because I do think it's very interesting. I think this might be an opinion that I have that's I don't know if it's minority held or whatever. I would actually argue that the origin of today's, I guess, the impetus that every team does, I guess, except for the damn Lakers. Every team in the NBA today puts on spacing is I would trace it back to LeBron James actually and the Miami Heat, the Heatles, if you will. If everybody remembers, they had the playoff run. Chris Bosh got hurt. They started playing a little smaller as a result of that. They came back. Bosh comes back. They essentially move him full-time to center, which solved their center woes because they had enough wings. They didn't have enough bigs. At various points, they were throwing Joel Anthony out there as their starting center. That wasn't the move. So, I mean, I think when we look at this era, one of the things that's really fun looking at the Warriors is that, like you mentioned, they have the 2 greatest shooters of all time on the roster in Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, but they do a great job of leveraging those 3-point threats and creating a lot of different things offensively off of it. They leverage the fact that Steph Curry frequently commands 2 on the ball into 4 on 3s for dunks off the short rolls from Draymond. And, they really do a great job of leveraging the 3-point shooting ability and the way it freaks people out into getting to the basket, hitting those mid-range, a pull-up mid-range jumper there. It's still basketball. Shot diversity is still important on some level. That being said, going on to the whole Boston Miami series, I'm going to go with Boston winning game 5. I think just in general, seeing a series in which both teams want to be able to switch everything and play a lot of people with similar physical profiles who can guard up and down the lineup. So then at that point, the best way to beat a switch is by slipping the screen or slipping an exchange. The second best way to do that, beat a switch, that is just by having people who can get buckets in one-on-one situations. And, we'll see if Tyler Hero is available for game 5. But even if he is, I trust Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. I trust that they can, do that better than Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero can.
Yeah. So Chaz, when we come back to do Spoken Truth, which we'll be doing on Thursday, guys. So tune into that episode, live edition on YouTube. When we come back, who will have the advantage in this series?
I think I agree with Tunde. I think Boston's going to win game 5. It's not something I feel great about, as we've all mentioned with the injuries. Marcus Smart and Robert Williams are listed as day-to-day tomorrow, as well as Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry, Gabe Vincent. There's like 5 guys on Miami's. So, we don't really know who's going to be playing tomorrow. If everybody is out there, I think Boston has the advantage. I'm a little worried because they haven't had that, and this could be part of, the guys being in and out of the lineup, but I feel like they haven't had that same defensive intensity that they did in those first 2 series. And obviously, when you take away guys like Marcus Smart and Robert Williams, Al Horford, game one, like those are some of your best defenders. So, I think they're going to be able to win game five. Tatum and Brown have to be really good. Danny, you said, Brown, I think he was 5 for 20, 1 for 8 from three, I believe, last night. That's probably not going to cut it in a road game, when Miami's playing a little bit better and, Max Strus isn't like 0 for 7 from three. So, I think this is a series that can go either way. Game five is going to be huge, but I think Boston wins it. And I think that's probably going to be one of the rare close games that we've had in the series.
Yeah. So coming back to you, Tunde, real quick, since you have Boston winning this game, game five here, what are the keys to Boston's success of winning game five?
I think a key will be not turning the ball over. I think that's a place where we saw them get in trouble in game three. Jaylen Brown, in particular, turned it over a bunch in that game. I think the issue with a lot of those is that they weren't just live. The frustrating part is that they weren't just live ball turnovers, but I mean, his dribble was getting, ripped clean off his body by, Oladipo, and that's not good. It's not good. It's not what you want to see. I feel like that's about as frustrated as you can be with somebody in a 40-point performance. But, can't turn the ball over as much as they did in game three.
19 steals.
Yeah, like
for Miami.
In game three? Yeah.
In game three.
Yeah, like that's a problem. And past the turnovers, 3-point margin as always is going to be something that's huge for Boston. Mm-hmm. That's a team that has a lot of shooting on the roster, and they want to space and shoot the ball. So with that, got to be the guys who play primarily off the ball. Your Marcus Smart if he's available, your Al Horford, Grant Williams, Peyton Pritchard, even Derek White, even as he's really been struggling to shoot the ball. All those guys got to catch it, ready to fire, or make a quick decision. Yeah. So, I mean, I'd say 3-point margin and turnovers will be those are the main things. If they win both of those battles, Miami won't beat them. And another thing.
Yeah. So, Chaz, I know you picked Boston as well, but I want to get your Miami keys to success for game five.
Yeah, I think it actually comes down to the backcourt, really. Obviously Bam Adebayo isn't, as consistent as we would like him to be, but he is still a very good player at that center position. The backcourt for Miami, every single night you don't know what you're going to get. There's really four guys between Vincent, Lowry, Hero, and Strus that get significant playing time. They all start depending on who's available, and yet all four of them have been inconsistent during the playoffs. I thought Kyle Lowry was a huge part of that game three win. He didn't have great numbers or anything, but he helped push the pace. He was in the right spot on defense. That type of game, even if it's from him or Vincent, could go a long way. And then at that shooting guard position, if you get, a good shooting night out of Strus or Hero, I think they can very well win that game five. We don't know if Hero is going to be available, so it could come down to Strus.
Gotcha. So coming back to you, Chaz, knowing that this series is the way that it's going, and it's kind of it's a blowout going both ways. We haven't really had a close ball games here. So does that hurt the product of the NBA of having these blowout, swings one way or the other? Like, do you think that's hurting the brand of the NBA?
I don't know that it hurts the brand of it. I just think for, the really diehard NBA fan that is watching every single one of these games, I feel like it hasn't been the quality is still high this year, but it's just every single game isn't as competitive. You're not getting those thrilling finishes. I think there's only been like 7 clutch minutes in the last 20 games combined. So, you're not even getting games that are coming down to the wire, let alone last second finishes. So, it's still good basketball. It's still, really high level players. and all that. You still got the great storylines. So I don't think it's hurting, the brand of it. But if you ask that fan that watches every single game, I feel like they would say, these games haven't been as competitive as years past.
Gotcha. Tunde, if you're in Miami and you're looking at the way that this series has went one way or the other, and you're looking at it and say, okay, we have 2 games on our home court, and we have to at least get game 5. And we cannot lose game 5, or if we do, we know we have to win back-to-back games. That hasn't happened in this series, obviously. So if you're Eric Spoelstra, what are you telling your team in order for us to win this game on Wednesday? We have to do this.
I mean, I think in the same way I said Boston can't turn the ball over, I think Miami's got to turn them over. I think we saw when Miami was able to force some turnovers, they were able to, get out and get some buckets off of that. Additionally, I mean, I think it's got to be a situation where the guys who are functioning as primary scorers on this Miami team, all have to do that. Again, we're really looking at a series where there's tons of defensive versatility on both sides, and like I said before, at some point this is gonna be pretty simple and come down to like who's able to consistently get to their spot and put the ball in the hoop. So Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, if he's out there and playing, Bam Adebayo, even Max Strus, who is more or less functioning as a secondary shot creator for this team. All those guys have to put the ball in the basket when they get the opportunity to. Obviously, you're kind of expecting Jimmy Butler to drop the boat here, but that's what we're looking at, I think.
So, what are our impressions on that Jimmy Butler injury? Like, how serious do we think it really is?
I mean, he missed the second half of a playoff game in the Eastern Conference Finals with the injury, so it's got to be very serious, or that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he has any ability to play in that second half, he does. You win that game, you go up 3-1. You obviously put Boston in a really tough position. I'm sorry, they would have gone up 2-1, right? That was game 3 that he went out.
Yes.
I don't think that, but I don't, obviously with Jimmy Butler's mentality, I don't think that's a game that he goes out if he has any say in it. That's something that he was told, it's a problem that could continue on. I think they're being very careful with him. That's why he sat. They actually, to me, they stole that game. I mean, their ability to still be able to hang on to that. I know they had a big lead when he went out, but that had to be one that Boston felt like they could get without him. So it's something that I'm worried about. I don't know how much it impacted his game last night. He struggled. You could say that was because of the injury, but it was also, over in the first quarter, so it's hard to tell. I think, these first maybe 5-6 minutes of this game 5, we're going to have to really see how he's looking out there. And if he's negatively impacted, then I feel like the Celtics will be able to close out in 6.
Gotcha. Any last words on this Eastern Conference, guys, game 3 and 4?
Well, what do you think? Celtics are favored by 1.5 tomorrow night. Who do you got?
I have the Celtics.
Okay, we all got Celtics.
I had Celtics game 5. Heat
game 6.
Game 6.
Oof.
And it goes to the 7. It really is a pick 'em. I'm going to say the Heat will win back-to-back, but that is so hard to say right now. So I'm going to stick to my Heat in 7, but I wouldn't bet a dime on it. I mean, I wouldn't bet a single thing on this. I wouldn't even bet a bottle of water on this game.
It's tough with this series.
Absolutely. So I think we all have Boston winning game 5. when we return to Spoken Truth Live Edition on YouTube on Thursday, we will have full coverage of that game 5 against the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. You can continue to watch us next when we cover the Dallas Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors game 5. But for now, we're going to tune out to this show right now. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify. You can find me on Twitter at Danny Murphy Jr. 1.
You can find me on Twitter at Chaz_post23.
And you can find me at King Tunde 25.
I was about to do it for him.
I was about to do it for him too. I'm like, oh, let me do it for him. All right, peace.